Good day, you're welcome to News on the Hour, coming to you from the studios of New Frontiers Television. My name is Adiola Adegoke.
And I am Adebola Deleke.
First, the headlines. DSS clears Saraki of 310 million naira ownership. Federal government to set up implementation task force on economic recovery plan. Attorney General of the Federation orders EFCC to hand over trial of Sokoto Commissioner to state. Moving on to business scene. NNPC, Chevron, Total to build 2 power plants. Central Bank of Nigeria bars 16 banks from SME window. Apple's iPhone sales in surprise drop. Etsy boss quits after quarterly loss. And on foreign scene, Assange lawyer asks Swedish court to tear up detention order. Islamic State claims responsibility for attack on NATO convoy in Kabul. Japan voters splits on revising pacifist constitution. Trump nominee for China ambassador promises firm line on Beijing.
And on to sport, Boston Red Sox apologize for racial abuse of Baltimore Orioles outfielder. Salford Red Devils winger banned for 8 games for racial abuse. Carl Edmond loses to qualifier Johan Dominguez. And Juventus aiming to make experience count.
Thank you for joining us. Moving on straight to the news. Imo State Commissioner of Police, Mr. Chris Ezike, has said that he has started the withdrawal of policemen attached illegally to politicians in order to beef up security in different police divisions in the state. Ezike stated this while fielding questions from newsmen after he interacted with the leadership of the Imo State House of Assembly. However, the police commissioner added that there are politicians who are entitled to security, just like the members of the Imo State House of Assembly, among others. The Vice Chancellor, University of Ilorin, Professor Abdulganiyu Ambali, has given the herdsmen encroaching on the institution's land a 7-day ultimatum to quit. The Vice Chancellor gave the ultimatum at a meeting he held with the representatives of the herdsmen and other stakeholders on the campus. He said that their presence there was a violation of the laws governing the university. Ambali added that the meeting was called because the institution believed in dialogue and peaceful resolution to conflicts. The Ekiti State Governor, Mr. Ayodele Fayose, has ruled out the possibility of contesting the senatorial seat in the 2019 he would never seek elected position again. He said his main preoccupation after leaving office will be to continue to agitate for a better Nigeria. The governor, who spoke in Ado-Ekiti during a meeting with civil servants on grade levels 1 to 7 and the state civil service, saluted the workers for their courage and perseverance in the face of economic recession, culminating in unstable payment of salaries. He also urged them to discountenance the rumor that he had received the second tranche of the Paris Club loan refund. He advised the workers to register at the continuous voters registration in the interest of Ekiti State. The Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, Abubakar Malami, has said that President Muhammadu Buhari was not comfortable with the fact that some bills that would assist his administration's ongoing anti-corruption fight were still pending before the National Assembly. He also confirmed that Senator Ken Nnamani-led Electoral Reform Committee has submitted its reports to President Muhammadu Buhari earlier in the day. Malami said this shortly after a meeting behind closed doors with Buhari at the presidential villa in Abuja. The minister described his meeting with the president as a routine briefing that centered around general issues, especially the anti-corruption fight and the reports of the committee. The Attorney General of the Federation, Mr. Abubakar Malami, has also ordered the Economic and Financial Crimes Commissioner to immediately stop the prosecution of the Commissioner for Lands and Housing in Sokoto State, Mohammed Bello, and Mr. Abubakar Ahmed, the Deputy Director of Sokoto State Ministry of Education. The AGF further instructed that the EFCC hand over the case file to the Sokoto State Attorney General, Sulaiman Usman, for further action. It was exclusively reported in November 2016 that the EFCC and the Sokoto State government were at loggerheads over the prosecution of Bello and Ahmed. The two men, who currently serve in the government of Governor Aminu Tambuwal, are being prosecuted on 43 counts bordering on money laundering allegedly perpetrated when they served in the government of Tambuwal's predecessor, Senator Aliyu Wamako. In Lagos State, the government of Lagos State said it saved 2.4 billion naira from the stoppage of sponsorship of the holy pilgrimage to Saudi Arabia and Jerusalem in the last 1 year. The Commissioner for Home Affairs, Dr. Abdul Karim Abdul Latif, who said this at a press briefing, explained that the government had been sponsoring no fewer than 1,000 residents for the pilgrimage but decided to end the custom. He added that 2.4 billion naira saved would be used for developmental projects. Abdul Hakim said the ministry was collecting the data of every place of worship in the state. The commissioner also said the government has continued to operate a participatory and strategic communication approach to ensure peaceful coexistence among residents. As the controversy over the ownership of 310 million naira allegedly stolen from the Maitama home of the Senate President Bukola Saraki gathers storm, the Department of State Security Service yesterday cleared him of any culpability. The DSS said the cash did not belong to Saraki or any member of the National Assembly and accused the dismissed staff, who is now standing trial for armed robbery, Abdul Rashid Maigari, of trying to fabricate a lie for either motive. It will be recalled that Maigari, a former DSS operative, has said that he and others connived to steal the huge cash from the Senate President's home when they were working as security operatives in his house. But a top DSS source has said that the facts emanating from its investigation did not support the claims by Maigari and should be ignored. The federal government is set to establish a task force on the implementation of key objectives of its recently launched Economic Growth and Recovery Plan. Minister of Budget and National Planning, Senator Udo Udoma, who disclosed this at an Economic Growth and Recovery Plan implementation stakeholders dialogue session in Abuja, said the ministry has commenced the process of establishing a delivery unit as well as implementation unit to facilitate the effective implementation of the plan. He said just as the plan was developed through an extensive consultative process to ensure collective ownership, the dialogue session was part of the process set out by the ministry to consult and harvest valuable inputs in order to further fine-tune the approach for enriching the ERGP implementation roadmap. We'll take a break and we'll return with stories from the business scene. You're still watching News on the Hour coming to you from the studios of New Frontiers Television. On business, the Group Managing Director of the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation, Dr. Maikanti Baru, on Tuesday stated that the oil production in the country has risen from 1.2 million barrels per day to 2 million barrels per day. Baru said this after meeting with President Muhammadu Buhari at the Presidential Villa in Abuja. He attributed the increase in oil production to the relative peace and stability being witnessed in the oil-rich Niger Delta region. He said the president on the activities of the NNPC and its subsidiaries. Barrow said his briefing also focused on fuel supply across the nation, crude oil and gas production, and the ability of the corporation to supply gas to the power sector. The Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation has said it has engaged its joint venture partners, Chevron and Total, to build power plants in Obite and Agora. The group managing director, Dr. Maikanti Barrow, stated this at the ongoing Offshore Technology Conference in Houston, Texas, United States. The GMD was represented by the Chief Operating Officer, Gas and Power, Mr. Saidu Mohammed, said in a statement that the NNPC has been part of the power sector, adding that the NNPC supplies steadily about 1,000 megawatts from Afam and Okpai, two of Nigeria's most reliable power plants, serving as one of the most cheapest sources of power today in the country. Barrow said the NNPC's role in the power sector would be enhanced with the completion of the power plants that it had started, and most especially the 3 mega plants in Abuja, Kaduna, and Kano with combined capacity of 3,000 megawatts. According to him, the NNPC is attending the OTC 2017 in order to attract potential investors and showcase its efforts at transforming into a full-fledged energy company. The Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Dr. Ibe Kachiko, has said the federal government will no longer sponsor delegates to the annual Offshore Technology Conference in Houston, Texas, United States, starting from 2018. Kachiko also said the country has perfected plans to begin an African version of the OTC in 2018, adding that existing top-rate annual oil and gas conferences hosted in the country, like the Nigeria Oil and Gas Conference and Exhibition, would be collapsed into the new, larger and improved conference. The minister made this disclosure at a meeting with investors and stakeholders in Nigeria's oil and gas sector at the ongoing OTC in Houston, Texas, United States. Kachiko, however, said Nigeria will take the center stage in hosting a version for the African oil market. He noted that the first of these could hold in Abuja. Meanwhile, the federal government has said it has raised a total of $400 million as part payment for the cash call arrears owed international oil companies for the development of joint venture assets last year. The Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Dr. Ibe Kachiko, disclosed the part payment in Houston while speaking to journalists on the sidelines of the ongoing 2017 Offshore Technology Conference. The nation's oil and gas production structure is split between JV onshore and in shallow waters with foreign and local companies and production sharing contracts in deep water offshore. The NNPC owns 55% of the JVs with Shell and 60% of all the others, and the JVs are jointly funded by private oil companies and federal government through the corporation. Kachiko said that the money was paid to the IOCs last week and that the balance would be defrayed within a year. The Nigeria Employers Consultative Association has called on the federal government to constitute a tripartite committee that will deliberate on the new national minimum wage, while expressing displeasure at the disruption of the National Workers' Day celebration in Abuja by aggrieved workers. The Director General, NECA, Mr. Olusegun Oshinowo, said in a statement that the fracas would have been avoided if the government had been proactive. According to him, the issue of a new wage was due for discussion in 2016 after 5 years that the 18,000 naira minimum wage came into effect. He said it was the responsibility of the committee to sort out the issue of the desirability of the review or the sustenance of the status quo in the event that was timing for the upward review of the minimum wage inappropriate. Chinese conglomerate HNA has overtaken BlackRock to become Deutsche Bank's biggest shareholder after increasing its stake in the firm to nearly 10%. HNA became a major shareholder in Europe's largest investment bank after acquiring a 4.8% stake in March. Its financial unit, HNA Capital, reportedly has ambitions of becoming a global investment bank. Deutsche Bank has been looking to raise funds after incurring major losses due to legal probes and misconduct charges. Earlier this year, the German lender abandoned plans to sell its Postbank unit and sold 8 billion euros of shares instead. HNA, which is privately run by billionaire Cheng Feng, has been on a major acquisition spree in recent years. The Chinese group owns stakes in a range of companies, including Hainan Airlines, hotel operator Hilton Worldwide, and Singapore-listed logistics firm. The chief executive of online craft marketplace Etsy has resigned after the firm reported poor earnings. Chad Dixon, who was also chairman, will be replaced by former eBay executive Josh Silverman. Etsy made an unexpected loss of $421,000 in the first 3 months of 2017, having earned $1.2 million a year earlier. It also announced it was cutting 80 jobs, or about 80% of its workforce. Etsy shares fell 17% in after-hours U.S. trade after the announcement. The e-commerce site said it had sales of $96.9 million in the 3 months of March, an 18% increase from the year before. However, that still came in below analyst estimates. Apple sold fewer iPhones than a year ago in the first 3 months of 2017. The Californian firm, which is due to release a new phone later this year, said it sold 50.8 million iPhones in the period, down 1% year-on-year. Apple boss Tim Cook blamed the pause as customers wait for the next iPhone. Shares in the firm fell nearly 2% in after-hours trading after earlier hitting a record high on expectations of better results. Apple reported a 4.6% rise in revenue across the whole company to $52.9 billion, slightly below analyst forecast. The dip in iPhone sale was offset by services including Apple Pay, iCloud, and the App Store, which recorded an 18% increase in sales to $7 billion. Mr. Cook also pointed to growth in sales of Apple Watch as well as its AirPods and Beats iPhone. We'll take a break. Up next is foreign. It's still news on the hour, coming to you from the studios of New Frontiers Television. Now on foreign scene, France's presidential rivals, centrist Emmanuel Macron and the far-right Marine Le Pen, are set to go head-to-head in a televised debate in which sparks are sure to fly as they fight their corner in a last encounter before Sunday's runoff vote. Opinion polls still shows Macron, 39, holding a strong lead of 20 points over the National Front's Le Pen, with just 4 days to go to the final vote in what is decidedly seen as France's most important election in decades. Voters are choosing between Macron, a strongly Europe-minded ex-banker who wants to cause state regulations in the economy while protecting workers, and Le Pen, a Eurosceptic who wants to ditch the euro currency and impose sharp curbs on immigration. Macron finished only 3 points ahead of Le Pen in the first round on April 23, but is widely expected now to pick the bulk of votes from the socialists and the center-right, whose candidates were eliminated. Moving on to Japan, where voters in Japan are deeply divided over Prime Minister Shinzo Abe's campaign to revise its 70-year-old pacifist constitution against a backdrop of growing tension in the region, particularly over North Korea. The survey, published on the anniversary of the Constitution's enactment, showed support growing for Abe's push to revise a charter written by the United States after Japan's defeat in World War II and never amended. About 46% of respondents favored keeping the Constitution as it is, 4 percentage points lower than a similar poll last year. The number favoring a change stood at 45%, up 5 percentage points from a year ago. Nuclear-armed North Korea has over the past year stepped up missile tests, the most recent of which was a failed launch on Saturday. And in North Korea says an American man interdicted late April, the third U.S. citizen being held by the isolated country, was intercepted because he was attempting to commit hostile acts. The state-run news agency said the American, identified last month as Kim Sang-dok, was arrested on April 22 at Pyongyang airport for committing hostile criminal acts with an aim to subvert the country. Meanwhile, the United States is negotiating with China, North Korea's sole major ally, about a stronger UN Security Council response, although Washington has also reiterated that all options for dealing with the North remains on the table. In Australia will this year review visa rules for wealthy would-be migrants, mostly Chinese, as the country tightens requirements for granting residency rights. This was made known by an Australian government official who did not elaborate on the changes under review, but hinted at the need to be proficient in English. The announcement comes only days after Australia asked a temporary work visa popular with foreigners, replacing it with a tougher program, and raised the bar for attaining citizenship. Nearly 90% of applicants for the significant investor visas are Chinese, who need to bring in a minimum of $5 million to become eligible for Australian residency. And in Afghanistan, a suicide bombing in the Afghan capital Kabul today has killed 8 people and wounded at least 28 in an attack on a convoy of armored personnel carriers used by the NATO-led Resolute Support Mission. The blast hit the NATO coalition convoy during the morning rush in one of the busiest areas of Kabul. Public health officials in the capital said 8 civilians were killed and at least 25 wounded, with a number of civilian vehicles that were near the convoy destroyed or badly damaged. A Resolute Support spokesman, U.S. Navy Captain Bill Salvin, said 3 U.S. service members were wounded in the attack. He added that the armored personnel carriers, which are designed to withstand large blasts, were able to return to a coalition base under their own power. Meanwhile, the Islamic State has claimed responsibility for the attack. In Malaysia police have arrested 2 thugs, including the head of an international school, suspected of activities threatening national security. Police Chief Khalid Abu Bakar has said that the men, school head Toge Karaman and businessman Ishan Aslan, were arrested on Tuesday under a section of the penal code related to terrorists. No further details of the alleged activities in Muslim-majority Malaysia was immediately available. No further details was also made available to the public. The police confirmation came after Karaman was seen on CCTV recordings circulated on social media being forced into an unmarked cab of 5 unknown men at a car park in a suburb of Kuala Lumpur. We'll take a break. We'll return with more stories from the foreign team. You're still watching News on the Hour, coming to you from the studios of New Frontiers Television. Still on foreign scene, where in Venezuela's opposition blocked streets in Caracas on Tuesday to denounce a decision by leftist President Nicolas Maduro to create a constituent assembly, a move critics said was a veiled attempt to cling to power by avoiding elections. Building on heightening global outcry over Maduro's government, the United States condemned the action, and regional powerhouse Brazil slammed it as a coup. After a month of near-daily protests by opponents demanding general elections, the unpopular leader announced on Monday that he planned to step up the super body Popular Assembly with the power to rewrite the constitution. The socialist government said the opposition was promoting street violence and refusing dialogue, so it had no choice but to shake up Venezuela's power structure. Critics of the president said he was increasingly dictatorial and planned to staff the assembly with supporters and avoid elections he would likely lose during a crushing recession in the oil-producing country. In Sweden, Julian Assange's lawyer has requested a Swedish court to rescind a detention order against the WikiLeaks founder over an alleged rape and allow him to go to Ecuador to be safe from extradition to the United States. Assange, 45, has been holed up in the Ecuadorian embassy in London since 2012 after taking refuge there to avoid extradition to Sweden over allegations of rape, which he denies. He fears Sweden would in turn hand him over to the United States to face prosecution over WikiLeaks' publication of thousands of classified military and diplomatic documents in one of the largest information leaks in the United States history. Lawyer Per Samuelson said the United States had now openly said it wants to arrest Assange, adding that he has to make use of his political asylum, and it is Sweden's duty to make sure that Sweden is no longer a reason for the facts he has to say in the embassy. In Brazil, Brazil's prosecutors have laid new corruption charges against a one-time chief of staff for former President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva, who is already serving long jail sentences on other graft convictions. Prosecutors accused Jose Dicu, who was released from jail pending an appeal, of taking $755,880 in bribes from two engineering firms, UTC SA and Ingenvic SA. The money was allegedly used for public relations efforts to improve Dicu's image before, during, and after a 2012 trial in which he was convicted in a widespread scheme of making monthly payments of congressmen to win support for legislation. Over the past year, courts have sentenced Dicu in two separate trials to a collective 32 years in jail on corruption, money laundering, and conspiracy charges. United States President Donald Trump's nominee for ambassador to China has promised to take a firm line with Beijing on issues from North Korea to trade disputes and human rights, and seemed poised for an easy confirmation by the U.S. Senate. Iowa Governor Terry Branstad said he would use his decades of experience with China to press Beijing to do more to encourage North Korea to curb its nuclear ambitions. Branstad, while speaking at his confirmation hearing, stated that there are other things they could do diplomatically and economically to send a clear signal that they, as well as the United States and other countries in the world, do not tolerate expansion of nuclear technology and missiles. In the United Kingdom, Britain's intention in negotiations over the post-Brexit status of European Union nationals already living in the United Kingdom is to give them very similar rights to those they enjoy now. This disclosure was made by Brexit Minister David Davis today. Davis said it was important to quickly resolve the issue of what will happen to EU nationals living in Britain and to Britons living in other EU countries after the United Kingdom exits the bloc in 2019, because uncertainty was causing those people anxiety. The Brexit minister further stated that it is the intention of the British government that they will have a generous settlement, pretty much exactly what they enjoy now, adding that British citizens abroad will do the same. Still in the United Kingdom, EU negotiators have hiked possibility payment demands for Brexit over recent weeks, widening the divide between Brussels and London, which question whether it owes anything at all before talks start next month. As before, Chief Negotiator Michael Barnier was due to give more details on the EU standpoint. A newspaper headline saying the EU might seek an upfront payment in 2019 of up to 100 billion euros due an immediate rejection from Britain's Brexit Secretary David Davis that it would pay that sum. The European Commission has previously given a ballpark estimate of the bill of about 60 billion euros. A senior EU official involved in preparing for the talks after a British election on June 8 said it did not recognize the 100 billion euro figure, although a number of private calculations of the bill have gone as higher or even higher. We'll take a break. Up next is Sports with Adebola Adeleke.
We are to sports news from New Frontiers television station, and starting with the world of baseball. The Boston Red Sox have apologized to Adam Jones after the Baltimore Orioles outfielder was racially abused by fans. Jones, a five-time All-Star, said he had a bag of peanuts thrown at him and was taunted with racist slur during Baltimore's 5-2 win at Fenway Park. The Red Sox said on Tuesday that they have zero tolerance for such inexcusable behavior. The Red Sox said they will continue to review Monday's event, while Boston Mayor Matthew Walsh said the comments are not who we are as a city. Major League Baseball Commissioner Robert Manfred condemned the abuse, adding that any fans behaving in an offensive fashion would be removed from the stadium and subject to further action. Jones said he had suffered similar abuse at Fenway Park before, but Monday's was the worst he had experienced. And on to football. Premier League. Crystal Palace striker Christian Benteke is eager to convince on-loan defender Mamadou Sakho to stay at the Premier League club past this season. The Belgian international has said Palace have lost just twice and kept 4 clean sheets in 8 league games, where Sakho, who joined Palace from Liverpool on loan in January, has played at centre-back. Benteke, who has scored 16 goals this season, played with Sakho at Liverpool and said that once 16th placed Palace were safe from relegation, signing the Frenchman, who suffered a new injury last week, would be the next priority. Cristiano Ronaldo's sensational goal-scoring record was hailed as unique by boss Zinedine Zidane as his latest hat-trick left Real Madrid on the verge of another Champions League final by thrashing Atletico Madrid 3-0. Ronaldo's treble was his second against Atletico this season and second straight in the Champions League after hitting the three past Bayern Munich in the quarterfinals. Victory extended Real's edge over Atletico in the Champions League over the past 4 seasons. Real have eliminated Diego Simeone's men in each of the past 3 years, including in the 2014 and 2016 finals, by the finest of margins. However, there was a gulf between the sides this time round as Ronaldo's 10th minute header opened the scoring, and they struck twice more in the final 20 minutes to give the scoreline the reflection Real's dominance deserved. Victory also kept Real on course to become the first side to retain the Champions League in 27 years. Ronaldo is now just 1 goal behind Barcelona rival Lionel Messi as the Champions League's top scorer this season with 10. There were contrasting emotions for Atletico boss Simeone. However, he refused to give up hope of a miraculous comeback on what will be the final European match at Atletico's Vicente next Wednesday before they move to a new stadium next season. Veteran Juventus goalkeeper Gianluigi Buffon is hopeful the experience in the Italian team's rank can give them the edge in their Champions League semi-final against the youthful Monaco. The sides meet at the Stade Louis II in the first leg on Wednesday in a fascinating clash of styles. On the one side, Europe's most thrilling attack; on the other, the continent's best defense. Leonardo Jardim's Monaco have won admirers for a brand of attacking football that has brought them almost 150 goals across all competitions and has them on the brink of winning the French title. They have scored 3 goals in each of their 4 knockout matches so far, eliminating Pep Guardiola's Manchester City and Borussia Dortmund to make the finals for the first time since 2004. And now to Pescara midfielder Sulley Muntari has been banned for 1 game after he walked off the pitch at Cagliari on Sunday, having been booked for complaining to the referee about racist abuse in the crowd. Serie A's disciplinary committee also said that no action will be taken against Cagliari because only around 10 supporters were involved in abusing Muntari. Meanwhile, Lazio and Inter Milan were found guilty of racist behavior by their fans during other games and warned they would face partial stadium closure if there was a repeat. The committee said that Napoli defender Kalidou Koulibaly was the target of racist chanting by Inter fans, while Lazio supporters targeted AS Roma defender Antonio Rudiger. Ghanaian midfielder Muntari said he suffered abuse throughout the side's 1-0 defeat at Cagliari, but was booked for dissent when he asked the match official to stop the game. The 32-year-old walked off the pitch in protest shortly afterward and was then given a second yellow card and sent off. Still on Sulley Muntari's case, Serie A's disciplinary committee says it cannot penalize Cagliari for fans' racial chant at Sulley Muntari because it was perpetrated by about 10 supporters. The Ghanaian midfielder at the time of Pescara's trip to Cagliari last Sunday was provoked to stage a walk off the field after he was shown a yellow card for insisting on referee Daniel Minelli, cautioning some fans who were abusing him because of his skin color. On Tuesday, Italian top flight disciplinary committee indicated that the incident occurred in the stand, but it was not enough basis to punish the host team. Sulley Muntari is suspended for the already relegated Pescara's next game, an automatic 1-match ban for the accumulation of 5 yellow cards. And from football to rugby league, Salford Red Devils winger Justin Carney has been given an 8-match ban after being found guilty of racially abusing Toronto Wolfpack player Ryan Bailey. The 28-year-old was sent off by referee Jack Smith in the 26th minute of the Super League Clubs Challenge Cup 5th round win on 23rd of April. Carney pleaded guilty to an abuse charge but contested its severity. He served the first game of his ban in a win over Windies on Sunday, meaning he will miss a further 7 games. Carney had been handed a grade F charge, the most severe category of offense, and an 8-game suspension was the minimum punishment. Meanwhile, All FC Bakura Sikamanu has been banned for 2 games after pleading guilty to a grade C dangerous contact charge relating to a challenge on Ryan Atkins during the black and white 34-10 win over Warrington. Catalans halfback Luke Wash also has been suspended for 1 match ban from 1 match after being found guilty of a grade A charge of using foul language to a match official, while Wigan hooker Mikel McClorum pleaded guilty to a grade B charge of standing on a player in a defeat by Castleford and was banned for one-man game. And lastly, on tennis, British number 2 Carl Edmond is out of the Millennium Estuary Open after losing to qualifier Joao Domingos. Domingos, the world number 242, fought back from 5-2 down in the 3rd set and saved 2 match points before eventually beating the 22-year-old 7th seed 6-4, 3-6, 7-6. The victory is the 23-year-old's first at the ATP World Tour. Elsewhere, Britain's Algers Bendeni beat Hungary's Martin Fucsovics in the first round of the Istanbul Open. The 27-year-old won 7-6, 7-3, 4-6, 6-4, just 2 days after losing to Lucas Pouille in the Hungarian Open final. The British number 4 will play top seed Milos Raonic for the place in the quarterfinals. And that concludes the sports news on News on the Hour at 12 o'clock from New Frontiers Television Station. Handing over to Adiola Adegoke.
And on that note, we'll wrap up news on the hour coming to you from the studios of New Frontier Television. Thanks for joining us. My name is Adiola Adegoke. Good afternoon.